Soundstripe. Soundstripe.
Hey guys, this is Andrew with NoBrakesFaith. Today I have a special guest. I have one of my he's actually turned into a really good friend. He's a well, let me introduce him this way because he is actually the reigning slam dunk baptism champ. This is Pastor Bryan Brown with North Phoenix Church, and we want to talk today. Right now we have some heavy stuff going on. I mean, we've been in men's Bible study and men's group and everything going on, and we just like feel it. So I thought it would be appropriate just to have a conversation about just things going on right now. And I want to just give it over to the pastor and let him kind of give you a little brief intro on himself.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm excited just to be here today and chat and chop it up. So my name is Bryan Brown. I'm one of the pastors at North Phoenix Church. I help oversee men's ministry, all of our discipleship groups, connect groups. And yeah, I'm really excited just to be here. And yeah, we've been doing men's ministry for a little over a year now. And it's been really great just to get into pour into people's lives, encourage them, and to walk with people through all different types of things going on in their life, good, the bad, the ugly, and be there. So,
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, Pastor, let me talk a little bit about our relationship.
Yeah, for sure.
So just, I don't really make friends all that easy. I don't really talk to people. I'm kind of an introvert.
Yeah.
And so, Pastor and I just kind of hit it off. And we're on our way to a baseball game, and Pastor noticed that I was wearing a San Francisco hat. A hat
Sure.
that I bought in San Francisco, and it was kind of an offshoot of the 49ers. But we just, got to rapping. We kind of just clicked, started talking.
Yep.
And just ever since then, we've been in the men's ministry, and we've been in each other's lives. And
For sure.
it's just been an amazing journey, but it's been really rough, especially now. Had some things happen with some men.
Yeah.
Just some heavy stuff, and that's why I wanted to bring him on. I wanted to talk about, just some of the things that, like what are you seeing in the church? You have people come to you, and I mean, I know you have to keep it, pretty anonymous, but like, what are the types of things that you're seeing with the congregation, or even like just people that come up from the men's group, or in general, just because they find out, you're a pastor?
Yeah. So probably the thing I'll bring up that won't have to worry about it, talking about a congregation member or anything like that, but just today, literally a couple hours ago, I found out that a friend of mine from high school passed away very unexpectedly, and he had a lot of things that he was wrestling with. He had a lot of demons. He had health issues. He spent time in prison. And the last time I talked to him, he was actually homeless, living out of his car. And so that was a really tough situation for me just to hear that he passed away. I had, when you hear about those things, immediately you start to grieve, and I start to think of some of the last conversations that you have with a person, kind of where they were at. I always try to figure out what happened, like, are they okay? And then I usually just try to start to check up on the family, et cetera. But when I was thinking about him, like, I really thought a lot about the things that he was wrestling with. It seemed like he had a lot of maybe mental health struggles that he was going through just based off of posts things he put on social media and things he was wrestling with. And it was just, really sad to hear that, because my immediate thought was, man, like, what could I have done to change the situation or been a part of impacting his life in a more positive way?
Yeah.
But I did some of those things, and we can dive more into some of those things I see. But it's interesting because I feel like he was really wrestling with the last few years. Like, I feel like it's only 5 years post the COVID stuff. And when first time, like, not knowing all the details of what was happening with the COVID disease, just in general, like, culture, world kind of slowing down and stopping, my initial thought was, I'm like, all right, people are going to be mad. People are going to lose their lives. People are going to be struggle with mental health, have a lot of different things that they're going to wrestle with. And then I thought, I'm like, there's going to be a percentage of people too that are going to wrestle with their faith, if they have faith, or even if they believe in God. And so I feel like what we're seeing now in culture is just a result of that.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of different things that people will wrestle with. I feel like I can trace it back to those moments. Because I don't know about you, but when the world shut down, that causes us a lot of time to think and reflect. And as a man, sometimes, we have too much time to think instead of getting to work. It could be a bad thing, right? And so I feel like for friends and other people, I've seen some of those things kind of surface, kind of this post-COVID area.
Yeah, that was a tough time, and even for me, it's actually when I actually drew closer to God, because right before that, in 17 is when I lost my brother, and then I had been mourning a relationship I lost also, and also my father-in-law had passed away shortly after that. So my even like in my family there was just like mourning, but I made a decision to seek God and say, hey, this is where we're gonna go. We're all gonna go to church. We're gonna do this and that.
Yeah.
But then you can also see the shift of where like people, like you were mentioning earlier, people were like searching. So like, I ended up online and I was like seeing Mike Todd and stuff like that. But seeing those kind of things, you really don't have especially if, you can't go to church and you can't, like I couldn't, call you up, you know what I mean? Or said I couldn't even call, a pastor. I couldn't call anyone like you to try to navigate through these tough times. And, you can kind of see where people just, maybe if they got on to YouTube and they found something, but it wasn't, biblically correct,
right?
Like, do you see anything like that nowadays? Like, I'm sure you have plenty of conversations and people say some off the wall stuff, and you're like, wait a minute.
It's really interesting. I think one of the things I've seen lately is like we seem as a culture to be very tribal in a way. Like, I'm gonna hang with my tribe, spend time with my tribe, support my tribe, and if you're not in my tribe, then we're not cool. And so the reason why I share that is based off what people share, what they say, I can kind of figure out like, oh, okay, what tribe you associate with the most, right? And sometimes that could be a good thing or a bad thing, or I'm like just concerned, like, okay, well, if they go off the deep end here, then man, I'm gonna be worried about them for reasons X, Y, Z, depending on what they say. And so I think that for a lot of people, I've just seen this, like it's been a lot of people have struggled with different areas of their life. A lot of things are just related to, I would say mental health has really been big. I think for some people, it's hard to have an area of like positivity in their life, right? Like what's going well, what am I looking forward to? I've met a lot of friends and talk to people at church, other churches who just don't really have goals for their life, right? They're just kind of going along, where it's easier just to go home and sit around and do nothing than it is to talk with somebody to just chop it up. And I think so. One of the ways like I like to encourage people in the midst of going through tough times this season is the building community, right? Like are there people, anyone that you can talk to when you're going through a tough time? And then for myself, especially when I'm in a healthy place, like checking up on people, like am I intentional to check in with people, to follow up, even at times when like they don't want it to, you know what I mean? Like, or just show up at their work or send them a message or send them a meal or whatever, just to let them know I'm thinking about them, I'm praying for them, that I see them, and ultimately for me, part of my purpose in life, that God sees them too. Like God is not very far from whatever it is that they're going through. So.
Yeah, well, I want to get into a little bit of like the role that social media plays, but I wanted to also mention like. With mental health, it's like also, especially after, that time that we have in 2020, is like easier just to prescribe a pill. Yeah. And like, now you can just get them, your meds mailed to you. Like, do you see anything happening with just being able to take a med and to, not have to speak to anybody or, not even go see a therapist and really speak to somebody, but maybe on the computer. Have you dealt with anything like that?
Yeah, it was interesting. So during maybe like in 2021, my wife had something going. I can't remember exactly what it was. Nothing too major. So she had one of those teledoc appointments, and it was really interesting. It was like after a few minutes, the doc was like, "Hey, based on what you said, I think I want to give you X," and it might have been like an antibiotic or whatever. And it ended up being what she needed to get healthy. But I was like, man, that was really easy, right? To get some medicine or drugs there. And I'm like, it could be easy for someone to take advantage of that.
Oh, yeah.
And so my wife being a nurse, a registered nurse, and just for her understanding just what's going on and like culture and what she sees coming into the hospital, like it can be really easy for people to get addicted to things because it can numb the pains that we're feeling, right? Like a lot of times, I think when we're going through things, having some mental health struggles or really wrestling with things, like we can take a lot of stuff and use that to mask what's really going on, right? To cover, looking at substances or drugs, whatever, to numb the pain that we're feeling when I feel like we're called to just essentially lay that out and allow brothers and sisters in Christ to encourage each other, build each other up, sharpen each other through the tough season that we're going to. But it can be easier at times just to be like, well, I'm just going to medicate in some other way, watching shows, get to the drugs, whatever that may be, sex, pornography, whatever. Like there's other things that we can put in front of genuinely connecting with people and building community.
Yeah, and I have to admit that I kind of did that with like even reading books, like, instead of, because at that time I was kind of like searching, I was leaving the church that I was at and I was looking for other churches. But during that time I was like reading and, it kind of gave me this, I don't know, it gave me like fulfillment in learning something.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like being in a community with the church and all that stuff.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But speaking about mental health, I also wanted to touch on, the role that, because everything's going nuts in society right now.
Right.
So, even in my profession, and I speak to people, and I have people that are kind of like, bouncing off the walls, like reading what they read on, it's not just like Instagram and Facebook, like they're on these little platforms that, they're just made for basically to hate, to feel some kind of way, to kind of be in an echo chamber and be like, oh yeah, this person or this side,
Yeah, absolutely.
like what are you dealing with? Like, what are you going through, when you speak to people with that? Like, is it hard for you to reach them?
Yeah, I like it's really interesting when I think about that because I think it's really easy. I guess one of the terms is doom scrolling, right? Where you just like get in the zone and then like it's getting worse and worse and worse. And I feel like even for my own self, speaking for myself, like I can even at times there's something I'm interested in, like take a topic, sports, politics, whatever, and then I'll read whatever is communicated, and then the next thing you know is like you're going through the comments, right? And it's almost like sometimes the comments trigger more of the doom scrolling than even the post, right? To see what other people think, because sometimes it's like, why does someone think that way, And I'm the type of person where I can read those things, and if I'm not careful, I can just allow that to take up a lot of time. Like I just remember something was posted recently, and it was about sports or whatever. And the next thing I know, I was like, man, I spent like 45 minutes just like reading comments of what people said, and I didn't comment back or at all, but it was just interesting to read how people processed what was going on. And so I think it really is easy for us to allow something that's immediate and right in our face to try to help us when, feel like it's helping us when we're going through a tough time. But in reality, it's like, I might read some news, might even be tough news to hear, even tough news about my friend. But then it's like I get up and I get moving and I get outside and I be active, and that helps me kind of like process and just start to look at the world differently. A lot of times when I find something that someone might post that I know them, I'm like, that was kind of wild that you posted that, or why do you think that? I get curious, I'm like, so share with me what makes you share this, or what experiences have you gone through that, you're going to share passionately about X, Y, or Z. And that allows me to help understand them better. And I feel like when you're able to have a conversation, it's not as vitriol or volatile. And as it is online, when it's just like you can't see the person, you can't read their body language, you can't pick up if they're like lying to you or whatever. There's that aspect where it's like you can't even now believe everything that you see, right?
Exactly.
Like
Or read.
or I don't know if you see the like videos online, you're watching it, you're like, is this really happening? And then it's like it changes into something like like something that's not real. And you're like, okay, like man, AI got me, right?
Good old AI.
And so it's really interesting to think about and process a lot of what we're seeing. I think for me, what helps me process things is really diving and having conversations with people and rubbing shoulders with them and chopping it up. Even if it's a short or long conversation, it helps put makes things more real, and then helps me better understand people. Rather than just like seeing something might trigger emotion out of me and then allow me to just doom scroll all through there and essentially waste time and not actually connect with people in the way that we'd want to. So,
yeah, it's nuts. I mean, it's like we live in a world where like everything is what you want it to be, what it can, what it can be, what you want it to be. It's nothing's like solid. No, there's no foundation for anything. It's just kind of all over the place. But I want to talk to you a little bit about kind of the opposite side of that, like the whole empathy, kind of like toxic empathy wave going on, rather than compassion.
Yeah.
The Bible tells us about Jesus' compassion, and like what would you say somebody's coming up to you and they're kind of just standing on quicksand, and they're not really standing for anything but everything.
Yeah,
you have to be empathetic towards.
Yeah, that is a tough question, because I think like you do need to have like aspects of empathy, right? To okay, like I can see you're going through a tough time, and so I see empathy as like I identify that you're going through something, and I see you're valuable. Like it's legit what you're going through, right? I think that's what I would describe as empathy, and then I think of like compassion as like you see that, but you want to help them move out of that. So if it's someone going through a tough situation and there seems like their life is spiraling, it's like the compassion I have for you is that I don't want you to spiral. I want you to get better and get healthier. And so like for example, it's called the compassion of Christ, right? Not the empathy of Christ. He's not like, oh, I feel bad for you. That's great. I'm not going to do anything about it. And I think that's where we come in, it's body of Christ, to come in and really help encourage each other and help each other push through. So that means that having hard conversations at times, saying things that people might not like, they might be uncomfortable about, but all out of love. I think there's ways you can do it that challenge people, that let them know you care about them more than just letting them sit in the pain that they have. And I think sometimes for some people, depending on whatever it is, it's easier for them to sit in a place and say, woe is me, over and over again, almost like they're writing a psalm about their life, right? And easier for them to sit in that place rather than to do the work to get out of it. And I think sometimes we who are not going through that exact situation can speak truth to those people, but do it in a loving way, which then I think it goes back to having the community with them, some sort of rapport with them, that they'll be able to trust you, right? I mean, I kind of think of like a different analogy, like sports. You mentioned like the 49ers and stuff. Like, if you were to see Brock Purdy in the street and you're going to be like, yo, let me tell you to play quarterback, you'd be like, who are you and why are you giving me this advice, right? Like, thank you, but no thank you. But if you were like a quarterback coach or on the team, it's going to be heard a little bit different, right? And so I think when you have that community and that space with people, you're able to speak truth into their life. And I think, too, the opposite side of that, sometimes we're so prone to want to speak into people's life and not let them speak into ours. And so like we can use the compassion that we might have for people to mask whatever's going on with us. So it needs to be like a give and take type thing, both encouraging each other to build each other up in the faith together.
Yeah, because empathy is definitely important, but you don't want to be like hyper empathetic or even like hypo empathetic where you just don't care. I guess it would be apathy, right? But but definitely like compassion also with the the empathy and like you said, you would like to actually follow through and help somebody rather than just always and then hyper, also don't want to be just like enabling either.
For sure.
So now I want to get into like just the whole mental health thing. We were talking about that earlier. Last couple weeks and last month, we've had some mental health stuff, especially like in the biker community. I want to talk about how we as followers of Jesus Christ can better support those like in our community, our friends, our family that are struggling with mental health challenges.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I definitely think of a couple scriptures immediately pop into my mind. One, wearing the thing on my bracelet here, John 16:33, where Jesus talks about we'll have troubles in this world, but do not be afraid. I've overcome the world. And I think I like to use that as a reminder because I feel like when you're going through a tough time, it's really easy to forget some of the even foundational things of your own life, but also of your faith, right? Which your faith can be shaken depending on the experiences you're going through, the tough time that you're in. And so I think that's one thing I like to think through and process, help people going through mental health struggles is just reminding them of the truth, reminding the truth of who Jesus is, how he promised to be there, never leave us, nor forsake us. The promises, I would say, that are foundational to our faith. But then also from there, I think it's like really hitting home and being with people. So there was someone I hung out with last week, and he was really going through a tough time. I knew he was going through a tough time, and he hit me up, and I don't know if I really felt like I had time to spend time with him, but I knew some of the things he was going through that I was like, okay, I need to be intentional and make the effort to be with him. And so that was really good. We ended up chopping it up for a couple of hours, and I learned even more about all the things that he's going through. And he shared some of the mental health struggles that he was personally going through and how he just wanted to give up on life. And I knew that like I needed to be there for him. And so I think there's that aspect of when like we hear what somebody's going through and they make an attempt to reach out, like to not miss those opportunities. So when helping someone through mental health struggle, I think it's a lot of it's just being present, being there with them. And then just like allowing the Spirit to lead you in conversation. Like I didn't come in with, I want to say X, Y, or Z. I just allow God to bring stuff up in his life. And as he would talk, I just asked questions that led me to encourage him and be a light for him. And I think too, it's like men and women process things differently, right? So for us, we were being active, playing sports, playing basketball, shooting around, hanging out at the gym, right? That was a lot different than like, all right, I'm going to go have coffee with this person, right? Because sometimes I've hit people up from church or whatever. Hey, you want to grab lunch or coffee? And it's like, for what? Like I got work to do. I got other things to do. Like we're just going to sit and talk, right? But if like, hey, kind of like when we met going to the Diamondbacks game, like, hey, let's go here and do something, be active, like something almost to distract us from the way they're having a conversation that like can lead to you starting to build that community, hear really what's going on with people, and this helping them feel seen. Everyone I know who's struggling mentally either doesn't feel heard or seen, and so I want to make sure they feel both as best as possible in appropriate ways, etc.
Yeah, we can definitely do that too. Just be mindful, especially like things like that. Because when things tragedies happen, you always second guess, and you're like, man. And you, like you said, you replay conversations, and you're like, "Did I do enough?" Where you can almost feel this guilt about certain things, But I want to kind of just jump off what we were talking about with men.
Yeah.
Being in the men's ministry, we see a lot, we hear a lot, but it takes something to crack that shell because we are men, like you said, we're different. We don't, especially in certain cultures, like in Latino culture, we're like. Don't you dare cry. Don't don't you tell anybody our business outside this home.
Right.
I don't know if you had anything like that, but it's like, men are just, we're definitely different. There's differences in just how we talk and we process and we, communicate, especially communication. That's usually from the women. That's usually one of the first things that they're telling us, right? It's like, what do you don't talk to me. I was like, said like 20 words to you. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I feel like my mom will always update me on stuff that's going on with the family, and my dad will give his thoughts when needed, for sure. I definitely, growing up, I feel like my parents were more like private in general. Like, I mean, they didn't even want to let us kids know necessarily if they were going through a tough time or whatever. Like, I remember one day I came home and my mom was sitting on the couch, and I was like, "Mom, like, you all right? Like you're normally like up cooking dinner or doing something, moving around, being active." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I had surgery today." I'm like, like you didn't even tell me.
Yeah,
Like
right.
I didn't even get a chance to pray for you, like well, you even want to do that, right? And so those I'm learning more that the experiences and upbringings you have really affect how you process what communication is, what good communication is, what's healthy, what things should just like you keep to the chest for the time for the vest, or things you just really need to be open about. So I think that really plays into how we process what being vulnerable is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that can, like, I feel like when you are vulnerable, that's where the truth can come out, and then that's where healing can come when we share stuff. And I feel like when we do like men's ministry, we have the teaching time, and then we're all sitting at tables, and then we can talk about the teaching. But sometimes, like, we're not really talking about the teaching, and the teaching sparks a thought or conversation
Yeah.
and allows someone to share what's going on. And I feel like those times when like we identify with each other, like, oh, you're going through that too, I didn't know. Like I have something similar. Like that's where like the bonds start to happen, and people really start growing in their encouragement with one another, and seeing that I need this brother to sharpen me as I sharpen him. And so I think that's really important for us to be in those spaces where we can allow each other opportunity to be vulnerable. But I think that it's taking those initial steps can always be hard. Like, like to be honest, like if someone just comes in and they're like way too vulnerable at the beginning, I'm like, oh, that's kind of a red flag, right? Like, man, you told me everything. Like I had a friend of mine, he was trying to find a wife, someone to marry. And he's like, I went on a date with this girl, and I told her everything about my life from that point. I'm like, man, that's crazy. It worked out for him.
That's good.
But that's like the only person I know that it's worked out for. But like I think like you can it's a difference between like I'm sharing what I went through and giving every little detail, almost like you just want to gossip. And we want create a space for men. It's just to be vulnerable, to share some of the things that they're going through, not necessarily to get all the details and be stuck on the left and right turns, as much as just like, here's what I'm going through, here's where I need help, here's where I have questions, or like, what do I do in these situations? I love chopping up with dads, for example, having kids of my own. Like, how do you handle a situation? Is it normal for this to go on? And I think being a dad too has made me have more compassion and understanding, like compassion for my parents and how they raised me, compassion for my kids, okay, knowing that I'm not going to be perfect, right? Because I think it's sometimes easy, as a parent, I can say now, it's easy for me to look at my parents and be like, man, they might have failed here, here, and here, right? But then as myself being a parent, I'm like, well, of course I'm perfect, right? Because like I'm not those things that my parents were, and so, but realizing that I'm going to have my faults, and even the ways that I'm raising my children, like there's going to be things that I might have missed or whatever. And so having other people be able to speak into that and be open and honest, and allowing someone who maybe made the wrong step to be like, I did this wrong, consider a different way, is always helpful.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about parenting. That's going to be that's a funny conversation because, we're all parented different and stuff like that.
Right.
But I want to, before I forget, I want to talk a little bit about prayer. I want to talk a lot about prayer because it's such an important tool. And, for people watching, I want to make sure that they understand how important and how powerful it is because, just thinking about the men's ministry, it's like, we sit there and we have groups that we talk to and we pray for each other. And it's like, even in the church, we have a place where you don't even have to be going to the church and you can get prayer,
absolutely,
for you. And I just want to talk a little bit about that. So give us your input on prayer.
Prayer is definitely powerful. I feel like as a culture, a lot of people downplay the power of prayer, right? And I love that we're really uplifting prayer and communication with God. And a lot of times I feel like when I pray, it allows me to be open and honest about things that I'm going on. Like I think like to look at like the Psalms, for example, and how open and honest David was with God. Like use honesty as a way when I lead in prayer. That allows me to also receive whatever God wants to communicate to me, whether that communication comes through silence or something through his word or something through another brother and sister in Christ. But I feel prayer is just foundational for like this setting the tone, right? When I look at Jesus' life all throughout the Gospels, anytime he did something big, he prayed beforehand. And it's like interesting. He didn't have to do that, right? He's God, right? If you're already God, like why are you asking for more help essentially? Or why are you redirecting your thoughts towards the Father? And so he was teaching us in those moments, like you want to do something major, you got to be connected to the Father through it. And so I think having prayer as a perspective, as a lifestyle is very important. Before when I was younger, I always thought prayer was like, okay, I got to it's something I did right before dinner and something I did right before bedtime. And it's usually like saying the same phrases over and over again. But instead of just like taking little moments throughout the day to talk to God. So if I'm driving along, going somewhere and someone pops into my mind, a lot of times I'll reach out to them and be like, hey, I'm thinking of you, praying for you. And I'll say a quick prayer for them. Like, there's a reason, God, maybe you brought them to my mind. Maybe something's going on. Let me reach out. And so that's what I think is very, what people can forget about prayer, is that it can be constant throughout the day. It doesn't need to be these long, drawn out things. It can be something, very short and quick, or you see something going on. I like to teach my kids, we're driving down the road, we see an accident or something. I'm like, hey, like who's going to pray for that family? Who's going to pray for whoever's going on in that situation? And so we just like to do those things.
Yeah. And like you were mentioning, David, like it's important to pray in the good and the bad, for especially the good, because, when everything's going bad, it's easy to be like, God, help me out. Like, right,
for sure.
But then when things are going good, it's like, do you really, hey, God, thank you for, for everything going on,
Right. We like to run from God a little bit from that. We're like, oh, I'm good. Life's
I'm
good.
Like, everything's great.
Oh, he needs you when things are bad. Yeah. That's why I find it's always interesting when friends or people share. I'm like, hey, how can I pray for you? They're like, no, I'm good. I'm like, you got nothing?
Yeah.
Like, not one thing? Like, all right, bet. So,
yeah. Usually I'd say the same thing. I'm like, serious? Nothing?
Yeah.
All right. But, okay, parenting.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned before, we're all raised different, but I kind of feel like we, even though we're all raised different, we kind of go through the same struggles, just maybe just in different, like say, some of us will go through something. So we'll all have some kind of trauma or something, but it's not to the same extent as like the next person. So, and then like maybe somebody has a happier childhood or, somebody has a happier adulthood or teenage, So we all kind of have the same experiences, just different, but parenting, like that thing is crazy. It's what do they call it? The craziest hood to be in?
Yeah, exactly.
I have two girls of my own, and definitely just, especially over, your first one, you have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, you don't.
So, it just kind of puts things in perspective, and you're like, with my oldest, unfortunately, we weren't as rooted in the church as I am now.
Yeah.
And, I'm just kind of hoping she grasps, the concepts that I'm trying to pass on still. Sure. But give me your take on parenting, and especially parenting with the Christian background, with the focus in Jesus.
Yeah. So I would say parenting, I've learned more about God through parenting. I've learned about my relationship with him, how he might view things. Like it's funny because I remember times when I was a kid, for example, take something trivial like eating dinner. And if I didn't want to eat like my peas or something like that, I'd like sneak them onto a napkin or put them in my mouth and then put the napkin over my mouth and like spit into my napkin, right? Like, my parents didn't see that. And now as a parent, I'm like, yeah, I see that, like, come on, man. Like you can't hide those things from me. And so like, I feel like being a parent has taught me how to look at life differently. And, I was raised in a Christian household. My parents, like from the time I was 2 weeks old, brought me to church. And so there every week, even on vacation, we go to church. And, when I was younger, I didn't really understand it. I was like, man, like, can't we just, like, we're on vacation. Why do we need to find a church when we're on vacation? But they really instilled in me that importance of just being connected to community. My parents taught me a lot about tithing. They taught me by tithing by like helping me, like when I did chores, they'd be like, hey, we paid you $10. Now you give $1 of that. Right. And so like they imparted that into me. And so different things that I've seen my parents model that are, say, foundational things to being a Christian. Like I see my dad reading his Bible growing up, and I see them pray and all that kind of things and lead in different ways at church. But yeah, it really affects seeing those things. I didn't realize how foundational they were. I just took them as, okay, this is how my family lives. But it wasn't until I saw other families that didn't have some of those foundational things that I realized, oh, like God's blessed me with a really great family. I didn't know things, for example, like I didn't understand I was a part of what we call a blended family. Like my mom was married to someone else before my dad and had my older brother or sister. Then there's me in the middle. Then we adopted my younger sister, and then my younger brother is my only full-blood sibling, but I see all my siblings as like we're one and big family. But I didn't understand like the different dynamics that played into that, how my older brother or older sister would view my parents, or like my dad as the stepdad, etc., or even my sister wrestling like with her adoption. So it's really like I feel like my faith has really helped me to have, in a sense, empathy for people, but also compassion for whatever it is they're going through and see life different, to understand how important it is to have a good foundation, to be consistent even when it's really easy to be inconsistent. And I think, big thing is I think of Ephesians 4:32, like forgiving others as God has forgiven you. I think just having that be a basis of our household relationships has been great for me and my wife. Then also how we parent our kids too. Like, I don't remember, and I probably blocked some of it out, but times where my parents would ask for forgiveness, and not because they're bad people or anything like that. It's just I don't remember that, and so I want my kids to remember those things. I know I'm not perfect. I know at times I might yell or do things that could hurt them, but instead of just like leaning on those and just like being prideful and like, well, I have the right to as a parent. Like I want to model what it means to forgive, model what it means to love each other through all things and to encourage each other. So I feel like that's one aspect of parenting. And the other thing is like, I didn't realize that like every moment it's parenting. Like I feel like I initially thought parenting is when you have conversations with your kids, but it could just be like you just living your life and they're watching what you're doing.
I see everything.
Yeah, they see everything. The good, the bad. Like, like when someone cuts you off on the road, I'm like, come on, man. And I remember that happened to me. It was a couple years ago. It was a funny story. I was driving and someone cut me off and I said something like that. Didn't swear or anything like that, but just like, man, like, come on, you frustrated me. Like, you cut me off. And before I could say something, I'm thinking this in my head. My son goes, at the time, he was like 2. He's like, come on, man, what are you doing? I was like, oh.
Exactly.
Like, he got that from me.
Yeah.
That's 100% me. And so I'm teaching him how to drive, I guess, early. But
Yeah.
but yeah, parenting can be tough. It's a good thing, but I think it's a blessing to be able to encourage my kids. I have 2 daughters and a son, so I'm blessed to be their dad, and I feel a privilege to lead them as best as possible. And I pray I do a good job.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because, it's just like this thing. It's like you don't know till you know.
Yeah.
It's like something unless you do it, you experience it, you don't know. You just have no clue. Like I'm reading this book from Allie Beth Stuckey, and she's talking about carrying all this stuff, and like people were walking by her because she's trying to get in the airplane and nobody will help her, and then she says she saw a mom, and it's like you don't know till you know, till like
Exactly.
like it's frustrating, rewarding, but it's like I said, it's a crazy place to be.
Yeah.
But it's there's nothing like it. I wouldn't trade my life without these kids.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to kind of get a little bit more serious. Like
Yeah.
you were talking about, like tribal. You know,
Mm.
like we're very tribal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think as society is kind of shifting right now.
Mm.
You know, we're very, very tribal, and we're very, I don't know, I wouldn't say loyal, but we're very like stuck on these sides and these things. And if someone has any kind of disagreement, you know, or doesn't, you know, agree with every single talking point you have,
Right.
they're outside of that tribe.
Right.
And you know, I know you're probably hearing a lot of it, especially with, you know, with social media and things like that.
Right.
With the division right now, what role does it play within the church?
Yeah.
You know, I know Pastor Noe, you know, from our lead pastor was
Yeah.
talking about that to Sunday.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, you know, like I know he's talked about, you know, people walking out like that, but do you
Right.
think that keeps people from the church, you know, from like going to church because they have to keep to these points, and if they go outside that, you know, do you think they're afraid to kind of like learn to figure out that they might be a little bit wrong about something?
Yeah, I do. I think I've done a lot of membership meetings with people, and one-on-ones, or like a couple meeting with me, and I just like to ask some questions about what are you looking for in a church? Tell me where you'd like to serve. Let me hear your story, your testimony, and that's where I hear just kind of like their heart. And in there, I ask them, what questions you have for me for the church. And a lot of the questions that people ask me, like, I feel like I could see their tribe coming out of it. And so it's like, depending on how you answer X, Y, or Z, it's going to let me know if I'm going to be a member of the church or not.
Yeah.
And so that's been very interesting to see, because I'm like, man, like, just so you know, whatever you think, there's probably someone who thinks the exact opposite, and they're here worshiping at church, and they might be sitting next to you, you know. And that's what I love about our church is we have people from all different backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, experiences, political views, and they're all worshiping Jesus. Like Jesus is the central point in that, in our unity. And so I think it's really easy to stay in your tribe when you're only looking side to side. You're not looking up at Christ. And so when I think about like different tribes I've seen from people that have done more negative than positive, I always wonder, well, how does that happen? Well, they're only probably talking with each other, but there's not a central figure in there that can call them up or call them out where they might have gone off. And so I think it's important to have like different people who have different experiences to be there with you to encourage you. So what I love about like our men's ministry, for example, is at the table you could have someone who's older than you, someone who's younger than you, someone who's married, someone who's divorced, someone never been married but has kids, like a little bit of everything. And I think we all need each other in that. I think that's what tears down the wall of tribalism, is when we can sit around the table with each other and genuinely talk and genuinely get to know each other. And so, but it's really easy though just to stay with the people that we know, because it's a comfort level, and it's like sometimes you don't have to explain stuff, right? They're like, oh, they get it. I can just say a phrase or a word, and they're like, yep, they understand, they get it. So it just makes it easier sometimes for people. But in reality, it's hard work, you know, to fight against the walls of tribalism. We have to put in extra effort. And I think sometimes it's easy for us, just like I said, just do what's more easy and comfortable. Just why for some people, they would say it's easier for them. Oh, it's just, I don't want to deal with my trauma, so it's just easier to try to pick up a drink or something like that, you know? So it's almost like tribalism can be an addiction on its own.
Oh, yeah.
But like we're too blind to see that it is at times, until someone else who's outside of it calls us out, which is why I talked about looking up towards Christ, because he is that central figure. You know, he's whatever it is you see on social media or whatever, politics, whatever, like he's not going to probably fully lean on your side. And so that can be hard for us to really wrestle with, because we like to think that we're right. And it's really easy to be like, you know, I don't like those guys, and I like not liking those guys, than it is to actually do the hard work of sitting down and understanding somebody, have active listening. I think that's something most people don't try to do. We'll listen, but then listen to wait for them to stop talking, and then we'll talk on our own, but not really genuinely trying to find out what is it that you're actually saying, and then how did you get that to that place. That's something I feel like I like to ask more often than not.
Yeah, we tend to forget that we're all from His tribe. We're all the tribe of Jesus,
Amen. Yeah.
Well, this is gonna pretty much wrap it up. But I want to, ask if you have any final thoughts to give. If you want to shout out anybody, if you want have anything you want to promote, if you want to speak about.
No. I think that's just great. I think thanks for allowing me to come on here and the chat and the chop it up. And I would just encourage people, if you're going through a tough time or you're really like, I don't know where to start, I think just reaching out to somebody, reaching out, whether it's a church, a family member, or a friend, and just like, you don't even necessarily have, when you reach out, you don't even necessarily have to like share everything that you're going through, as much as just spend time with them, do something fun, like allow yourself to like breathe a little. Because when we allow our own intrusive thoughts to win the day, sometimes it's not always right. We need someone else who isn't in our brain to help us encourage us and let us know that we're going to be okay. So there's that. And then the other side of it is just don't miss opportunities. You know what I mean? Like take advantage of opportunities you have to connect with people. So if God puts something on your brain or your heart, someone in your heart or mind, just take advantage and act upon it. So.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Thank you again for coming, and just wanted to say bye to everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode.
All right.